Okay. All right. It is 8:03 and on Thursday, May 14th, 2026, I would like to call this meeting to order, meeting of the Personnel Committee of the Village of Shorewood Hills. So I'm going to do the roll call now. Albrecht, Cookie's here. Barford, I am here. Goldbranson,
Present.
present. Lampy,
Here,
McKinney. She is planning to join by phone, so, but I'm just going to leave that one blank for now. Moser,
Here.
thank you. And Laura Stevenson is excused. Okay. Uh, Brian or Taylor, are we in compliance with open meeting law? Oh, sorry, Mary has a question.
Question, who, the picture of Charlie Pittman?
That's
Is that?
a
Um,
member of the public attending.
Okay, thank you.
Taylor, are we in compliance with open meeting law?
yes, this has been posted.
All right, thank you. Okay, number 4 is public comments, an opportunity for members to speak to the committee, community members. No discussion or action may take place at this time, and speakers may be limited to 3 minutes. So, Shali, that's you if you care to speak. And do we have anybody online besides us? I guess that's a stupid question. I'm so used to being in the room. Who's online? We're online. Okay, we are the ones. So,
I'm okay. Thank you.
all right, thank you. Okay, so having none, we'll move on to report on Board of Trustees actions related to personnel. The only one I can think of lately that's directly about personnel is that we passed the position description for the new finance director position at our meeting, special meeting on Tuesday. Brian, can you think of any other ones that I'm not apprehending?
I don't know that possibly the last meeting that we held, I didn't bring the personnel committee up to speed on the recent administrative hiring, but we did add Samantha Ballard to the team. She is our new administrative assistant. She's also working with our police administrative assistant right now, Jan Hartwig, to learn the role that Jan was fulfilling in the police department as we anticipate Jan's retirement in October. And then Sam will be doing both of those positions going forward. So we will not be reposting the police administrative assistant position upon Jan's retirement.
Thanks,
What about the
Brian.
resignations?
I didn't quite catch the question. What was that?
What are the resignations since the last meeting?
Was there a resignation since the last meeting?
Yeah, officially.
Yeah, kind of. That's what we're meeting about today, more or less. So I can explain
Okay.
that one as we move on in the agenda as to the reason we're all here today.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all of the trustees' actions related. Oh, Koki.
Just wondered what the status of the hiring of the new finance director will be, just the timeline, if that has been sorted out yet.
Yeah, so I can speak to that quickly. So yesterday I met with the team from Public Administration Associates. I recorded a recruitment video that will be released on social media, YouTube, hopefully later next week. We're going to bring the position announcement to the board next Tuesday for formal approval. We will also be approving the selection panel to make the recommendation to the board of the chosen candidate that we'd like to advance for appointment, and make a job offer to at the time that we get to that point, in the next subsequent board meeting or special board meeting that takes place, so we can bring them on as quickly as possible. PAA had in their timeline estimate somewhere between 6 to 12 weeks for that position to be filled.
Okay, so thank you, Brian, for all of that. Sue McDade said that Brian did awesome taping his message for the candidates. Public possible second career in media, who knows? So thank you, Brian, for doing that. I think that's all of trustees' actions, board's actions related to personnel right now. So we'll move on to update on recent hiring. Uh, I think that's basically all um, of the info on the finance director hire. Koki, you're muted, Koki.
Sorry, I have a one quick question, and that is, who's assuming those finance director responsibilities for the 6 to 12 weeks?
That is a great question, Koki, and I failed to mention that in the slew of things going on right now. So I was able to work with a staffing firm, Truity Partners, who had previously been able to assist the village in getting Julie some additional accounting assistance. So we previously were able to agree to terms through Truity with Tim Allen. Tim was a former finance director with Janesville and had worked in a couple of other public capacities as a finance director, and in the private sector as well. He was helping Julie do a little bit of the accounting background in preparation for the audit to bring us up to speed. I was also able to work with Truity to secure the services of Christy Snyder. So Christy is in office right now. We were able to get her onboarded, brought into the village hall picture a little bit before Julie's final day so that she had an opportunity to work with Julie on some things, kind of get a quick lay of the land. And she is helping get us prepped right now with approval of bills for our upcoming board meeting. And she's doing some other additional behind the scenes work with a couple of different committee requests and a couple of things that I have her working on as well. So we're hoping that she can stay with the village at least through the end of June, which hopefully won't leave too much of a period of vacancy within the finance director role.
Thanks, Brian. Sounds like a good solution. So just that, so I understand. So Christy is actually an employee of Truity.
Correct. That is correct.
Great. Thanks for finding that solution.
Yep.
All right. Should we, Brian, talk at all about the selection committee?
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. If you want to
Okay.
give a quick update on that one.
Yeah. So there was a meeting with Sue McDade from PAA, who is driving the boat on this recruitment process from PAA, and Mark attended as Mark Lederer as chair of finance. He attended. I attended on behalf of personnel, and also Kate Crowley attended from finance. And we all agreed that it would be good to have a selection committee that does not include any trustees. So uh, so it Kate has agreed to serve, and also Koki here from Personnel has agreed to serve on that selection committee. So, of course, it'll come back through to the board in the end, but we just wanted to make sure that committees had some robust representation because, we committee chairs are on the board anyway, and we get to vote there. So that's and I believe that the composition of that selection committee is also going to be approved at the next board meeting. Yeah, yeah. So that's what's going on there. Any questions about that? Okay, okay. So then I think we can move on to six.
Carol,
Yeah,
just to close the loop, I think one thing that I think has occurred since the last meeting is the change of Aline Hauser's status, and I don't know that that's ever been reported to the committee.
Brian, can you address that?
Sure, I guess I'm losing track of time here since we had our last meeting. So Aline Hauser was brought on board with the assistance of Public Administration Associates, who I reached out to following the departure of Chrissy and Nicole from our team. And Aline formerly was the clerk with the city of Monona. She came in a time of great crisis here when we had lost the two individuals back to back with very little advance notice. So Aline came in, hit the ground running. She has done such a phenomenal job. She has honestly saved the village operation here. It's just been such a blessing, and I talked to her at length about the opportunity of bringing her on full time as a result of the great job that she has done, and she agreed to do so. She has been brought on board. I briefed the board through my administrator report last month. But she was brought on board as the administrative services coordinator, the position that was formerly held by David Sykes. Since we had hired Taylor Wall as the clerk and were under the process of filling that role at the time that she was working part-time. So she is doing utility billing work right now for us. She is our backup deputy clerk. So she comes with years of experience there. So I think we have that role sufficiently covered for the foreseeable future. And she has been helping tremendously with financial backup for Julie and now for Christy. So she is very much involved in the day-to-day operations, and she is very busy. She's a hard worker. She's a tremendous asset that we need to protect here.
Mary, yes.
So is she an employee now?
Yes, we have officially brought her on board. I think she has just completed her first effective pay period with the village last week.
Thanks.
So I think that line of discussion reminds me that Taylor has been hired since our last personnel meeting, correct? Because that was in February. So I guess for those who closely follow personnel, we should make that announcement as well.
Yes, Taylor was brought on board kind of around the same time that we finalized the details with Aline, maybe even slightly before then, from his first reporting day standpoint. But he came over from the city of Madison, has been doing a phenomenal job in very difficult circumstances. And I want to again acknowledge what an amazing job he did. during the most recent meetings that we had, special meetings on very short notice and kind of in a very critical situation, and he did an amazing job. So that is the bulk of what we're hoping to discuss here today, which is the perfect segue for that. I know we have one other piece that we do want to kind of talk about as we move into that main topic of discussion, and this is more or less a sort of consensus assessment on where things stand within the administrative office at the moment. And this is part of the challenge that has been, we have a lot of moving pieces right now. We have lost a lot of institutional knowledge through the recent departures of staff. David Sykes, I mean, he more or less in many different capacities had over 30 years, I think, of institutional knowledge pertaining to the village of Shorewood Hills. Maybe not necessarily just administrative, but in full encompassing different roles that he has held in the village. We lost Julie Wills, who had 20 plus years of municipal experience. We lost Julie Fitzgerald, who likewise had over 20 years of municipal experience. And Chrissy had at least a decade when she departed. So we've had other staff turnover and people who have just started to learn their positions and barely got their feet wet and had to depart for various reasons, other opportunities in some cases. And so we've been in a state of flux, and Taylor has come in. He has been doing an exceptional job, but he has acknowledged that the role that he is fulfilling here in the clerk realm, the ask has been greater than what he anticipated. We have a situation where there's not a lot of people right now that have the ability to take on additional workloads. We're pretty much maxed out as a team right now and what we can each individually handle. So we're in a spot where we're coming today with some ideas that have been brainstormed for possible solutions to remedy the ongoing situation here in Village Hall. We also, through our meeting on Monday night, our special meeting, had some advice and recommendations that were brought forward by our board for discussion today. And one of those, I'll turn the floor over to Carol here to kind of explain one of the thought processes about this. And then hopefully we can have a more collaborative discussion and some ideas on other solutions that you think could not only address the current state of affairs that are contributing to the problem, but also just some ideas from your past careers and past walks, and maybe if you've experienced similar situations and some of the ways that you approach solutions to those problems.
Thanks, Brian. Mary, I think I saw your hand, and then Koki.
Could you just review the current positions available within the administrative office? So there's obviously your position, Brian, but then
No, not Brian's position.
no, I just mean what I'm not saying that are vacant. I just want to know all the positions.
Sure. So we're a team of 5. So we
Okay.
have my position, village administrator. We have the clerk, which Taylor is in the role of right now. The finance director position is vacant. Christy
Yeah.
is fulfilling that on an interim basis. We have Aline Hauser fulfilling the administrative services coordinator position, and that will be replacing the deputy clerk, deputy treasurer position title. We won't be reposting that for the foreseeable future while she's fulfilling that role. And then Samantha Ballard has been brought on as our administrative assistant. So those are our 5 positions.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Koki.
And just to get the complete lay of the land, David Sykes has no official role with the village any longer. He's not a consultant.
David has been relied upon to a great extent over the last few months to help bring some institutional knowledge and training into the picture, but he is not being compensated for that. He is doing that out of the goodness of his heart.
Before we move on to any other topic, and since Brian just gave us the list of the admin staff, I just want to point out that his the combo that he has created here represents actually less, one half FTE less than what we have been operating with on a steady state, if you can cite a steady state lately, but it's one half FTE less because the police admin position has been rolled in together with essentially the admin assistant position. Is that correct, Brian?
So right now, Jan is still full-time, and her anticipated retirement date is mid-October. So as of mid-October, we will be operating with one less full-time position between. And Jan is part of the police department, but I believe her salary more or less comes from the full levy. So she's not considered to be a police officer by difference. It's all part of the same budget picture. We'll be operating with one less person.
Yeah, so I think that's really important to keep in mind as we start talking about employee retention, that Brian has already pared down the staff as far as or farther than it will go. And so there's some room there. So I want to focus here on item 6, update on recent hiring. I can just, Brian and I have discussed how to find somebody to fulfill open records requests because this is a big load and it's also been a hot potato, both logistically and politically. And so Brian's going to initiate a procedure to hire a temporary LTE, a temporary part-time individual. So that's going to be posted according to the current personnel policy, and hopefully we can very soon take that off of Taylor's plate as the clerk and put it onto somebody else's who is doing that only. So does anybody have any questions or concerns about that? Erica.
Well, just a little more meat on the bones. What kind of qualifications are you thinking for this person? What will they be able to meaningfully do a job where they really aren't very familiar with the people or the records? And will they be in the direct line of fire when calls come in that are, might we say, less than polite, and emails come in that are accusative? Or will those be funneled through somebody who is not a part-time person who could walk out at any moment when they don't want to be treated that way?
Good question. Brian, do you want to take that one?
Well, I mean, as far as the qualifications, I mean, I am open to having that conversation here today. I mean, this is part of what I was hoping to rely upon with the group. As far as the communications, I can speak with the hired individual. I have no problems with being the point of contact going forward on all communications with the village as it pertains to these records and or resident inquiries, so as to be the block that's catches the perhaps impolite or accusatory feedback going forward. I can play that role. I want this person to know that they can operate as independently as possible to focus the bulk of their time on completing the mission that needs to be accomplished, and that is bringing our backlog on open records requests back to some level of what we would deem an acceptable time frame of fulfillment. And I would like this individual to, I mean, hopefully, as we go forward, have this working relationship with all the team here where we can be relied upon and counted on to fulfill our parts of completing those record requests timely. But we still are not pulled from our core job duties and statutorial requirements that we need to fulfill. And this is the piece that I think right now we are struggling with. This is something that Taylor has identified as being a challenge that would have, without being addressed, probably prevented him from succeeding in his role, which led to him submitting a resignation request with the village. And we would like to do everything in our powers to keep Taylor. I am open-minded. I'm trying to do and react to this as best we can. I know that there are issues here. I only have so many cards that I can play budgetarily to make things work. But this is again where the personnel committee, I really want to see if we can use this body as a sounding board, a brainstorming team to help us figure out solutions. And that's why we're here today. I've got a couple of other bits of information. I think Carol does too from our meeting on Monday that we can share. But this is more of I really want to hear from everybody as to what you think the right moves are, given the limited amount of resources we have to work within, to make this a better arrangement so we're not encountering this on a crises response basis moving forward.
I saw Mary and then Erica.
So we have a possibility of keeping Taylor?
That's why we're here.
Fabulous. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Erica, yes.
Well, if this puts it into sharp focus for me, I've worked with Taylor on the election when he'd only been in the village for a week. I watched him at that special meeting Tuesday night with operating with such poise and dignity and competence and unflappability. I think if the launch pad for this proposal is to try to find a way to make Taylor's job palatable and capable of being performed within the contours of a day and not a day and a half each day, I fully support whatever is being proposed.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you. So I guess, Brian, we're going to proceed to put together a notice and get that going. Sooner the better. Okay, so I believe between this effort to put together a temporary part-time open records request position and the finance director position that's being pursued, I think that's agenda item 6. I think that's covering that. Let's see. I see Gloria has her hand up. I know that it's not public comment time, but also Gloria has been involved with some looking at overtime for the village. So Taylor, Brian, is it okay if I call on Gloria since we're moving to agenda item 7? Yeah.
I would say yes. She is working on an aspect of this to contribute to this conversation.
Okay. Okay, Gloria, if you want the floor, you have it.
Thank you. Thanks for your flexibility. I would just say before you move on, I would suggest that you make sure that you touch base during this meeting with Mr. Wall to make sure that the hiring of an LTE alone is sufficient because my understanding is not only is Taylor very good in this position, um, he is he. My understanding is that the city of Madison is very happy to have him come back. Um, and I think, like a lot of people at his stage in career, my impression is that he came to the village because it was a promotion, not only in money, but also in terms of title, so responsibilities. And it offered him, I believe, a really nice opportunity to advance in his career. If he were to go back to the city of Madison, obviously he's not going to go back to the city of Madison as the clerk. So one could surmise that it's going to be a not a lateral move. It would be a down move in terms of title and responsibilities. But the city of Madison, given the size, offers a lot of opportunity that the village can never offer. Having said that, Taylor, the village also offers you an opportunity to help shape your position and help shape this office. And to speak to you directly, to Mr. Wall, I'm sorry, you have the professionalism that you have demonstrated and being able to keep your head above the fray and not get mired into the politics has been really impressive. And I think that you could, by staying here, have an opportunity to shape a position for yourself that could be really enriching for many years to come. So I would ask the committee, before you move on with the decision just to hire an LTE, use the opportunity to ask Mr. Wall questions and get feedback from him and make sure that this move is exactly all that Mr. Taylor is hoping for. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Yes, indeed. We are my idea is to have a fulsome discussion about all of that in item 7, under item 7. Um, so I believe we're moving on to item 7. Uh, Discussion and possible action to recommend administrative employee retention bonuses to the village board. To be frank, I was hoping that agenda item could be a little more general, but we had some snafu with the agenda this morning, so or yesterday. Anyway, now we're going to talk about keeping admin employees. So, Taylor, at any point, I want to give you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you are most welcome to chime in. So with this agenda item, we want to do our best to retain you, and whatever mechanisms we put in place, we want to be generally durable in the long run. That would be ideal. We want to institute something that's going to work for people in general, as well as keeping as making the job more attractive to you. So I guess I'll just get into it. In my mind, based on things that I have read from you in your letter and also heard second or third hand, that we need to take kind of a three-pronged approach to retaining you. One is dealing with the open records request burden, and we've discussed that, and that's kicked off. Number two is dealing with the fact that you are working too much in the short term, and how to either alleviate that or compensate that or both. And number three is, as you noted in your letter, the structural problem that we have of too much work for the staff that we have allocated to do the work. So that's it. 1, 2, 3. ORRs, compensation for overtime that's happening now, and the longer term structural problem. So, so compensation, and I just want to start with an analogy that Brian liked. Uh, it's been proposed that, well, we just gotta pay Taylor more. And it reminds me of a friend of mine who kept chickens. And in the wintertime, she would put a light bulb in the hen house and keep it on so the chickens would lay more eggs. And they did lay more eggs, but they also died sooner. The chickens that were in the hen house with the light bulb on, their life did not last as long. And that was the price that was paid for that increased egg production. So I don't know if I think maybe I think in the short term, in the very short term, maybe more money for Taylor is the idea. But if he doesn't want to get burned out, we just have to have more staff. We cannot have him in the chicken house with the light bulb on all the time. So if everybody will just indulge that little true story. So we need to make more time for Taylor to have his life is the point. Yes, Mary.
Just as a comment as a farm kid, we turned the lights off. We just extended the lights on just to replicate the day. So it seems to me we have a compromise that we have to come up with. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the analogy.
Yeah. That said, Taylor is an exempt employee. He's salaried. There are rules around how you can give bonuses that are essentially overtime to salaried employees. And I am not an experienced jockey of all that. I think where you get into trouble is if the bonus is a regularized thing, like if over time it becomes strictly an hour for hour overtime situation. So this is where we would have asked Julie about this, but it's in the Department of Labor, and I don't know if I can share that in the chat or if that's even a useful thing to do now, but I'll make sure that everybody has that Department of Labor rule. So at the same time, we need to compensate Taylor for overtime work that he's doing. I guess I'll just stop pattering and I'll open up the floor to anyone who would like to comment on the best way to compensate Taylor in the very short term. Taylor's got his hand up. Go.
Well, thanks everybody, first of all, for all the flattering comments and desire to retain me. I do want to relay here something I told Brian, which is that there is no number that gets me to stay. It really is staffing. The fact that I've got to downgrade an hourly rate, if you want to consider that with me as a salaried position, is certainly not ideal, but it is not the thing which is making me tender my resignation. We are gorged to the throat every day over here between reports we have to give to the Department of Revenue, the timelines we need for licensing and permits. I was brought in, I was supposed to help with zoning as well. That was something I was expecting to be trained on. But we are in a position in admin right now where my onboarding was quite a small interval of time. And then it was the election and now licensing and special board meetings, et cetera. So I do just want to stress that it will be things like this LTE records position. And, but if on top of hiring folks, it is still more work than I was expecting, because I agreed to this position thinking, oh, that salary is commensurate even with the board meetings I'll be attending, extending in-person voting absentee voting hours around elections, etc. So I suppose there is just going to be a kind of acting out a negotiation of those hours worked and pay. So, I certainly won't say, no, don't give me a bonus or anything like that. But I think the long-term strategy is definitely to bring more staff in.
Thank you very much, Taylor. That helps us to focus. Mary.
A question I have is the job position that Taylor was hired under, I assume listed the performance functions that we wanted. And has anyone compiled what, in addition to those functions, have been added to his plate and figured out? Obviously, one is he probably did have open records responses on his plate, but never did we think it would be 80% of his job. So have the functions been listed and the amount of time for each of those functions and any additional functions that have been asked of him, so that we can look at what all are the functions under this position today in comparison to what he was hired for, and what are the time allocations that have actually ended up being.
So either Brian or Taylor, do you think you can answer that?
I would have to look up the position
Yeah.
description right now. I don't remember there being a percentage
I don't think there
of
was.
time. But I mean, just to kind of get into a little more granular detail there, public records requests right now are not actually a substantial amount of my time, because there are so many deadlines that we have to meet recently. It's more the backlog that is creating a lot of angst. And the fact that we've got outstanding requests even from last year, and we're almost halfway through the year already.
I think one of the things we, and Taylor spoke to it, one of the things that's really challenging right now for me is that I am being more or less asked with trying to bring everybody up to speed in an administrative office on positions that I have never held here either. And so we don't have the institutional knowledge still within the walls of the office to fully train all of the people. So a lot of things are being well, actually, a couple things are just being reinvented as we go, as far as processes that we can improve upon, because we don't know what the old one was, or we've lost the knowledge as to how the full process went. Taylor unfortunately did not have the luxury of being able to sit with me. We've never had any discussions to date on zoning. I have not had time to do that. And I mean, I think this week, I guess, this is kind of been an example of the challenge that has been the administrative office environment for some time. We're trying to respond at the moment to a situation where we're trying our best to retain somebody. So we held a special meeting on Monday night. And then Tuesday night, we had our special meeting called by the board that we didn't have any choice but to participate in. So between those two days, I mean, we've already put in a substantial number of additional hours. I mean, Tuesday for me, and I think Taylor might have gotten here right at the same time as me. I mean, Tuesday was an 18-hour day for both of us in the walls of this building. In most offices, you'd probably be able to take a half day or a full day off after you work 2 days in one. We're now preparing full board. We got to go right into the board meeting next week. I'm substantially behind on that. Taylor is crucial into me getting that material done. Taylor's going to be gone on Friday. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get all of it done by the end of my next day and a half here. So we're probably going to be back here on Saturday working to get the board packet done for Tuesday. And then Tuesday will be another 5+ hour meeting. So I mean, it kind of exacerbates itself when you're already behind. And there is no good time to take off when everybody is new. So you kind of have to lead by example and be here. So this is contributing to the problem. The burnout is real and it's been felt by others who have left and have been communicated to me. And I just don't have enough, like I said, I don't have enough cards to play right now to help fix this within my scope.
Thank you, Brian, for that. Erica.
Just a question, just to put this in context, because I did not see the written agenda. I may have missed it, but I didn't see the written agenda. Is the agenda trying to persuade Taylor to reverse his position on resigning? Or has he already made that decision? Or is the issue before us creating an environment where people don't leave because of the backbreaking and seemingly endless amount of work that shows no signs of abating with the inadequate staff? Or is it looking at the conditions that led some very seasoned people to run for the hills because of the way they were treated? What are we trying to enlighten me? Because what I think I'm hearing Taylor saying is that don't do it for him. And frankly, to Taylor, I would say, even if it is sweetening the pot for you to stay for a while, don't sign your life away to the village. You need to do what's best for you. And as I've encouraged everybody who works for the village to do what's best for them, because frankly, I don't think the village has spent a lot of time thinking about what's best for them. And what's best for them is to go home to their families at the end of a workday.
Thanks, Erica. I guess I'm going to offer my synthesis of what we've heard so far, which is that we need more staff in the office as soon as we can. Uh, and I know that getting staff and getting staff up to speed takes time. But Brian, do you think that's a correct summary?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I mean, the conversation that was held in closed session Monday, what I think I can say, because it was a direction given to me to speak to today, was we can continue to throw money at a problem and hope that it changes things. But in reality, if Taylor goes even after getting the money and or like the others who have received retention bonuses recently and have still chosen to depart, are we really even fixing the root issue that exists within the office? And some of this is 100, well, I should say it's 100% workload, but it's also work environment and other factors that we probably haven't had enough time to adequately discuss that are contributing to this situation right now. We understand there's high expectations here. I've worked in other work environments where expectations were equally as high, if not higher. Um, we, you know, I try to do the best I can to protect the staff and be the person that runs interference, but I think some people have in our community have chosen to go directly to the person working their case instead of directing their question to me. And I think that's causing some of the issues as well. So we need to figure out a solution to that. Um, and then we need to figure out ways that people can separate and take the time off that they have earned without feeling like they still have an obligation to fulfill the work requirements that come when they're off, because there's nobody here in the administrative staff realm that's truly backing them up fully when they're gone. And this has been an issue that I can speak to myself. I know Julie Fitzgerald has had this problem. And in the past, we've done everything we can, Julie and I, to allow all the other staff to do everything that we just said, but we have felt at times that that has come at our own detriment, because we have allowed people to use all of their leave, and then we get to the end of the year and we're like, we there is no good time for us to use our leave anymore, and there's nobody that we can hand things off to fully when we choose to depart for vacation or something. So you inevitably come back or take vacation at your own detriment to come back to a deeper hole than you left, that you have to dig out of. So this is just part of the conversation. I do not have good answers for you that don't involve certain aspects that I don't know that the community wants to entertain.
Koki and then Greg.
Actually, I think Greg was first, so
Oh,
I'll
okay.
defer to
Oh,
him.
thank you. All right. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Koki. I appreciate that. So I've been listening carefully, and I've been on the personnel committee for a while, and I think trying to compensate people was a really good idea, but it doesn't appear to be working very well for us in terms of trying to retain people. Which brings me to what I think, what I read as the two core issues that we're dealing with here. One is obviously a structural issue, and the structural issue deals not only with staffing, but with a related issue, which I see as really critical, which is function, right? What are these staff positions supposed to do? What are at the core of those positions? Um, and I think that's a really important question to ask, because obviously we're filling these positions with multiple responsibilities and multiple functions, and some of them are critical. Many we would probably read as critical, but maybe we need to re-examine whether they are in fact critical, and see where that leads us. And secondly, I think, is the work environment, which in some ways is interdependent and related directly to the amount of work that's required of each person in the office. So I think we can take, like, what I would call, not facetiously, a Band-Aid approach, and throw money at it and talk about how we can make this work, versus getting right down into the core of it, which is a total review of the structure of the office and looking specifically at each position, taking positions off, looking at critical functions, and then reorganizing the staffing around that. I think we've got it a little backwards, honestly, in the way we've approached it. And that's just because we've had this experience all together, and I've had some time to think about it. But I think those two issues are interrelated, and I think it requires a very careful look at what we're expecting our staff to do. And that gets down to removing the titles and looking at functions and what's statutorily required, and what the community, of course, expects of the office, for us to maintain our municipal status. So that's just what I've been thinking about, and I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what I see. I don't want to take a superficial approach to this, and again, not being derogatory at all, but I think we need to get right to the meat of it, as Erica likes to say, and I think we can do that if we're real. And I know this is going to take time, so we don't. This is the other agent here, right? Is the other pressure is we have a time problem also in terms of trying to be thoughtful in terms of our approach. So I'll just leave it there. I don't want to talk too much, but that's my thinking at the moment.
I have a clarifying question for you, Greg. Do you feel like hiring a new person and reevaluating and potentially reshuffling the duties can be concurrent? Or do you feel like it's a figure out the duties and then advertise for another person?
I think we know, thanks for that question. I think we know the pressure point, one of the pressure points, true pressure points, has been, and also politically and every other way, a challenge is the requests we get for open records. I think that adds another layer, right, which we haven't had to deal with in the past, as to the best of my knowledge, not at this volume, right? So I'm all for doing that. I think that's not a Band-Aid to me. That's trying to relieve the pressure in the office, right? And the community pressure and the political pressure that comes with it. I think that's an excellent idea. I fully support that. And then I think at the concurrent part of that question, concurrently, I think we can embark on a very close look, again, shedding all the position labels we have and looking at essential functions and then rebuilding from there. And the only reason why I'm doing this is as administrator for the UW system, I had to go through two consolidations and regional shufflings of the institutions. And this is what we did. We stripped away titles because we needed to see what the vital functions were and look at all the functions and see what's essential and what's not, and how do we deal with the balance, right, of those issues. So that's where this is where I'm speaking from, that experience. And that took time. But when we reconfigured the staffing across the system, which was across 13 campuses for me, two-year campuses, we came up with a structure that was a lot more workable and user-friendly for the staff, where they weren't working, 18-hour days. So that's just my experience, and that's what I'm drawing from. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, yes, thanks, Greg.
Sure.
All right, so Koki.
Well, Brian and Taylor, you can speak to this too. But certainly the village owes you guys an apology for the work that we have laid on you. I'm wondering, basically, is the issue, would you say that the village has not been fully staffed for years now, the administrative staff? And as a result, a lot of tasks have been put off, deadlines are looming, and you can't address them. So my question is the issue this backlog because you have been understaffed for so long? And once you get out of this hole that has been dug for you, will you believe that 5 staff people are enough to handle the ongoing work, or do you feel that you need an additional staff person?
Taylor, why don't let's have you speak to your firsthand experience before I chime in on this one.
Yeah, so from what I have heard, to quote Trustee Barford in a previous meeting, even the halcyon days of David Sykes, David was racking up vacation that he could not take. And part of the problem was that once he wanted to retire, he wasn't off the books for a long time because he was using his vacation towards the end, and the staff was just operating both without all that, or I guess part-time, without all that institutional knowledge and getting a backlog raked up. So it sounds like it's been a problem for a long time. Just being here for a month and change, I think, I have proposed an LTE records officer. I think that will help to get us caught up just in that realm. But honestly, there are so many services in this village which I really admire and would want to continue, like the rec programs, that are currently being juggled between a lot of staff that already have a full plate. So I think an earnest investment in increasing permanent number of staff for administration that perhaps could even just be one new full-time person. I would still recommend a part-time records person to get the backlog fixed. But in terms of an operational sense, definitely more staff is needed. And it is particularly hectic here with no finance director with municipal experience. I know Julie having left, she was worried about a lot of things that might fall through the cracks, and I can't really speak to that. But having a title of deputy treasurer, I am, per the state, someone to look to for some of these financial answers. So that's another thing that's creating some angst.
Thank you, Taylor. Before we go to Mary, I just want to clarify the mental model that I proposed, which is that the records person, a temporary part-time person to work down the backlog and to address the thing that is looming on Taylor, but actually not taking most of his time right now. That I want to carve off and put over here. That is one thing. We're doing that. And then over here, I'm talking about the potential for more staff to alleviate the workload that Taylor is actually dealing with, the thing that's actually keeping him there too many hours every day. And so I feel like that's the thing that we have to discuss. And before I say more, I'll let Mary say what she's
I
got.
think Brian was going to comment also on whether you thought you needed another person.
Sure. What I can say is I think to answer Koki's question, I think when you are in an environment where your job and you've been with an organization long enough to really be proficient in your job, I think you can complete your roles faster, more effectively than times like this that we're experiencing right now. When David was here, or for better or for worse, probably when Koki and Carl were here, there was a significant amount of stability, institutional knowledge as to the operations and how processes worked. And we've slowly lost that over the last better part of a year here. David went part-time in April, and that's when I think the pressure points started to build. We did start to have questions start to back up that we were relying on David to help us answer. We didn't know where records were held or processes behind things. So things started to slow down. And then we ended up having one or two untimed and unplanned departures of new staff that were more or less given the institutional knowledge to carry forward. And when you encounter that situation, you lose that institutional knowledge, it left the door with that person and wasn't retained by anyone else in the walls of this building. So we became very much somewhat lost at sea for a period here of trying to bring new people on board. I think that's been exacerbating the issues because they're frustrated. There's expectations on them to get things done that they don't have people that can train them on effectively and how to do those roles. I can speak from the experience of what I have been asked to do over the last year, which has also caused some of the challenges. I mean, I was tasked with updating our village website, and I got the village website updated, but we've never really had the time to give it the attention it needs to become an all-encompassing information hub for village residents and to become the means of our main communication of information sharing, which has led to people saying we're not getting information timely. And then we wanted to update things like a village YouTube page so we can retain all our meetings. So it's a very easily accessible place to go to get those records. I have had so many losses. I've never been able to actually dedicate my own time to figuring this out. I've never been able to dedicate my time to learning the website, but we've lost so many staff that now I'm running the website in part. I can't update the YouTube page. I've never been able to train anybody on how to take that over and start adding things to it. We just keep building up more and more asks on our team, and we're never able to actually finish the things that we initiated previously. And so it's been challenging. And when you lose people, I mean, we sort of go to people on a regular basis who become more proficient in certain tasks, like send a Nixle alert out. Can you update the website? Can you add this important news item on the website? Well, those little pieces are leaving the building that were our kind of go-tos. And now it's like incumbent on the rest of us to learn on the fly how to do all of these things, which is causing extra stress. And the residents are like, where is the information? We're not getting the information. It's because we lost the people that were our communicators of the bulk of our information. So in short, where I'm going with this is my own recommendation at this point would be, aside from the open records request LTE position, we again have had almost, I think last year, over 300% increase in open records requests last year to the prior year. I don't know how you could feasibly entertain and know that that was coming in a way to prepare adequately for it. But then the things I can tell you from here, if we added one position that encompassed communications and then recreational program oversight, I think we could probably get to a little bit better place of pulling people back into core job duties. That being said, Julie, one of her greatest frustrations is that she had all of the accounting knowledge within the office, and this has caused some of the challenges that have led to the backlog in the financial realm here in the admin office. When we lost the people like David who had a little bit of financial background that Julie could rely on, we just shut down. And then we lost our clerk, and then Julie became interim clerk, and open records were the push. We need to get open records requests fulfilled. And Julie had to do that at the expense of financial records being updated. So we never really got Julie in a spot where she could get the budget, the materials done to close out last year's fiscal year. So now we're behind. And so, like, again, there are multiple pieces that we still need to balance, but we never have the time to get people trained. I know Taylor could do financial stuff. He's smart. He's capable. Are we ever going to be able to get to a point where he has the luxury of a year, 2 years, 3 years of going through training time to build up the skills necessary to be an effective deputy treasurer? At this rate, I can't honestly tell you. I think we will, without some changes.
Thanks, Brian. So I think we have Mary and then Greg.
So it seems to me we have an immediate situation, and then we have to think about long term. And I applaud the getting somebody to do open records. And I think there are people that have done them for, whether it's the city of Madison, the state, the school district, that really know how to do that and do it well. So if we can take that off the board, then I think, I mean, when I look at the list, Brian, I think you've been there the longest, and maybe it's a year and a half now, or is it 2 years?
Almost two.
Okay. And everybody else is literally brand new within the last 3 months, I think. So what are the way we do payroll, the way we do utility billing, the way we collect taxes, the way we do specific areas? Might there be, and I assume we've saved some money by not having people in positions, that we can hire essentially just in time? I don't want to do LTEs even, but can we hire somebody from Maple Bluff for the next 4 months who does payroll the same way we do? And I have no idea if we do. But are there like positions within Dane County municipalities that we could have them come in and just tick off and get caught up? Because until we're caught up, to me, restructuring, which I desperately think we need to do, I think it's just so frustrating. The other thing, communications, that one I think we could do an LTE until we get all of our work caught up. I think I mean, even our church does YouTube. And so I think somebody could come in and figure out how to do that and get it running. And I think the website, there are experts in the city, and I know it's populating the website. It's got the website structure, but that may be something that even someone in the community might be able to be really good at and come in and do it. And then asking, again, doing those matches so that if it comes to zoning, first of all, if Taylor wants to spend time on that and Brian is trying to get that caught up, might there be somebody from the city or from Middleton or from Wanakee or from Oregon or another village that has that expertise that we can literally pay on an hourly basis to come in for 4 hours and get at least caught up and begin that training process? Or when Taylor goes to a training, can somebody come in and do some specific tasks? I mean, I think that there's ways of figuring out specific tasks so we get everything caught up. I can't imagine working knowing that I'm so far behind and just constantly being behind while trying to do the current. So I think we've got to figure out a way to get caught up and then get people trained and doing the jobs that we ask them to do. I'm not sure and I agree with you, Brian, that a communications person might be helpful, but that we might be able to hire a consultant to do and not do it on a permanent position basis. Anyway, I really hope that we can just in the next 2 months have some people come in and help us. And I don't think we want people that don't know the job, because then you have to train them how to do the job. So it's not like I can say, I've got all the time in the world. I could come down. The only thing I could probably do is answer the phone. But I think you want people with the expertise to come in and help get caught up.
Thank you, Mary. I got Greg and then Erica.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Mary. You articulated that really well about the short term versus the long term and trying to get caught up. Brian, I really appreciate your kind of talking about that another position in the framework of what seems to be needed, right, in terms of communications and the other pieces that you're very well aware of. So I would defer to you and Adam and Taylor on recognizing where those pressure points are and trying to figure out how to alleviate that through a staffing position. The other thing that kind of, and I know this has happened to all the positions in the office of late, and that is these other duties come up and then they're assigned, right? So on top of the core duties that you're doing, then you've got, and Brian gave us a list of examples of that, the website and communications and so on. It seems that Brian and Taylor are now in a position to say, here are those pressure points, and then trying to figure out, as Mary said, what's the short-term solution, maybe bringing in some LTE help. And then the longer term, what is the other staff, and I don't know if it's plural or not, needs based on those pressure points, right? Is it just being behind, or is it those other duties that come in, functions that come in, demands that come in, needs that exacerbate, being overloaded, as Taylor has experienced firsthand, right? It's a lot of responsibilities, and then there are on top of that time sensitive duties as assigned, and so again, I would respect Brian's perspective on this, and Taylor being in the position, being able to recognize very, very easily some of those other duties that need to be covered that are just holding you back from the core functions.
Thank you, Greg. And then Erica. You're muted, Erica.
It's probably my highest and best use is unmute. I think I'm hearing two things. One is the triage piece of this, and the other is what Greg has, I think, articulated very well about looking at functions. I must admit, I'm shocked that we have an administrator who is expected to worry about the website and do these other, and for God's sake, a YouTube channel. The world doesn't need a YouTube channel in the context of our standing on the deck of the Titanic. The YouTube channel can wait. So one of the things I would recommend, besides thinking about who can do these functions, is what things can we immediately strip away and say, we're going to defer that for a year. That's a time drain, and we don't have the luxury of adding something or perfecting something. The website is a little bit different, but I'm shocked that we're tasking an administrator of village to be the person who becomes in charge of the website. What you want that administrator to do is to manage the office and to be the point person for the community, so that when you come in to the office and you have a problem, as was the case when Koki was there, you would go in and you talk to Carl because Carl had the time to talk to you. And that was part of what was the fabric of the village that was so valuable, that we're squandering right now by tasking it. The last thing I would say is when we do get around to doing what Greg is suggesting, I think we need to think big. And big may be we need a deputy administrator, somebody who is capable of taking on the responsibilities that slop over from the administrator when he's entitled to take some time with his family, or the finance director. But instead of thinking in terms of, well, we need another administrative assistant, that may be the last thing you need. You may find out in doing Greg's analysis, it's those other tasks that actually make the village run, and make it run in a way that's palatable to the people occupying the positions. So anyway, there you have it.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you. I think we had Koki and then back to Greg. Is that okay?
Yeah. Absolutely, Erica. I would second all your comments. Just Brian, so you know, and Taylor, when I was clerk treasurer 100 years ago, I did not deal with the public one bit. I'm just really kind of shocked and appalled to hear the difficulty that has been created by people contacting the staff rather than just dealing with, back in the day, it was Carl, of course. I appreciated the insulation that I had that allowed me to continue to do my job. So it seems like that maybe the residents have been spoiled. I don't know. They think that they can go directly to staff, but maybe they need to be retaught. So there's that. Well, it sounds like what we're all agreeing is that we need more help, but there's always the bottom line issue about how to finance it. And I'm wondering, Brian, if you have any thoughts about how to deal with that. I do have one, and maybe this has already occurred to you and to Taylor, and that is that we always talked about hiring a recreation coordinator to handle all the spring workload dealing with those rec programs. The village is very spoiled by the fact that those fees for land rec, Four Corners, are very low because the burden is placed on the staff and the volunteers. The parent volunteers do a tremendous job and they devote a lot of time in running those programs. And there's value in that because it creates community. Certainly, those parents work together, and maybe that was one reason why it wasn't seriously pursued. But I would think that one approach is to increase those fees so that we're not looking at increasing the general fund burden and hiring a rec program director. So that's just in going back to my initial question, do you have other ideas how to finance hiring more staff?
No, thank you, Koki. I think that's a great point. That is something that we have discussed as a possible solution to this. And I just wanted to rewind really quickly because I know we've been talking about the needs for additional people, and you might be asking, well, why in the world, Brian, would you have said earlier then that you're going to get rid of a police administrative assistant position and try to consolidate that into the current administrative assistant position? I mean, like I said, I don't have a lot of cards to play right now. We have chosen as a community at this moment to not go forward with a referendum this year, possibly even next year. We're looking into early TID closures at the moment as a means of perhaps creating additional revenue streams without asking the residents to pay more. Um, uh, for full disclosure, I mean, last year, I believe our net new construction allowed our levy to increase by a whopping $9,000. We are already at our levy limit. So the card that I can really only play as a means of possibly giving a salary increase to our staff this year is using another position by elimination to open the door to new revenues to provide for our existing staff. So this is not an enviable situation for me to be in, but I'm trying to think one step ahead as a way of also not losing more people and saying, I'm sorry, I can't give you a pay increase next year. We're not in a position to have any extra money to do so. And that might be for 2 years, the way we have currently got things set up. So uh, I'm trying to do everything I can. I just said I don't personally have enough abilities in my purview as administrator to make this work. Fees will do something. It could definitely, but then there's a point where if we raise fees too high, people might choose just not to participate. And that's, I have never had an opportunity to run a cost benefit analysis on where we think that break even point of where people might say this is too high a cost for me to continue to participate exists.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Brian and Koki. And then we have Mary, and then we have Greg. And then I would like to propose some motions that we can discuss for the board. So, Mary.
Actually, Greg was ahead of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Greg, sorry.
That's fine. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. I just wanted to piggyback on what Erica was talking about, and I also want to make a comment about financing any changes we do. One, first of all, I think in the analysis that we did at the university, we had two categories basically that we reduced our analysis to. One is essential, absolutely essential functions, right? Can't do without these. They're fundamentally part of what we do. There's no sacrificing those. And the other was, this is going to sound kind of again, I don't mean to sound in any way like I'm reducing this, but nice to have, right? This would be nice to have, right? These are functions that we do, but they would fall into that category of they're not essential, but they're really nice to have, and that would fit into what the village expects and so on. Some of the spoil things we've done to make people really happy, and then realize how are we going to get this done. So that's my first comment. It's really trying to figure out what's nice to have, right? And peel that off a little bit to get to what's really essential. And then secondly, about financing, one of the things that and I'm going to sound really like an administrator here, and I apologize, but this is one of the things that I insisted on was we look at program first. We look at what we offer first, and we decide what's really important to offer. And then we figure out how to pay for it. So program always exceeded or came first, right? Prioritized over paying for it. Not to in any way suggest that we wanted to be careless about paying for it, but then we would work between those two properties, right? The program we really want, what this looks like, and then how we're going to pay for it. And then we would probably have to compromise somewhere in there to figure out that. But when you start talking about money first, it limits any creativity, any change, because you're worried always about how you're going to pay for it. it's real, but I think it limits our the prospect of what can be done, right? I think that really limits our thinking when we put everything in the box of what we can afford. So you're creative and you come up maybe with some restructuring or whatever that is. But if you let finance be the priority, then it really limits the creative possibilities. And again, that's just my opinion. So, but thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Mary, then.
Okay, just a couple of quick things. One, we also can't forget our responsibilities for elections, and we have one coming up in August, and I have a lot of concern about that. If we don't have adequate staff, we have to have a great clerk to whose job is to manage that. Secondly, I would say I agree with you, Greg, that we always looked at program first and money, but revenue limits changed that whole game, and we ended up having to look at money first and then decide what is essential functions and what are the ones that we want to keep. But my other suggestion is there anything, and I really mean it lightheartedly, because as an administrator, I would have kind of shrugged my shoulders. But is there anything that residents can do on a volunteer basis that could offset some of the workload? And I literally mean like answer the phone, and giving that person then the time to be trained in something else. And I honestly have no clue what that might be. But I also don't want it to be something that everybody comes in to volunteer and it takes more time to train them than it does to just do the job yourself, which is what we've all learned with our kids. We sometimes just did it instead of helping them learn how to do it. So those are my three thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. So if I can sort of round this up and also add in my own interpretation. I totally appreciate what Greg is saying about we're the personnel committee. It's our job to deal with functions and with the work experience of personnel. It's our job to make a recommendation of what we think should happen. And to some extent, then it goes to finance to figure out how to pay for it. So it's not it's not quite that simple, but I think this is our wheelhouse and that is their wheelhouse. And so it's incumbent upon us to say what we think needs to happen in order to have a functioning experience for everyone on the staff. Or an acceptable experience for everyone on the staff. So what I am hearing is that we have short-term issues and long-term, and some issues that can only be dealt with in the long term. So in the short term, I think we're all in agreement that we want an LTE to do open records. And Brian has also proposed that we look into an LTE to do communications and rec oversight, and those two things would take off the immediate crunch to some extent. And so I think we should make a motion for those two things to the board, and we can talk about those motions. I think that the longer term assessment of functions, the must have, the nice to have, the hope that we could get some backup finance capability as a essential tactical element in the village staff, that we need somebody besides the finance director who can deal with the money, literally who can sign checks. I mean, lately we've been worried about, do we have enough people in the office who can sign checks? So that's my proposal, that we make a couple of motions about LTEs, and that we put at the top of our to-do list as personnel committee to support a long-term reanalysis of the functions toward having the staff deployed in the best way. Is that yes, Erica?
The other element that I would like to see initiated now, and I don't offer it to you as something that needs a motion, but you rule, Carol, is I think that another thing that should be done immediately is to ask Brian and Taylor and perhaps Aline to tell us as a committee what they would immediately strip away or defer from what they are being required to do, that in these exigent circumstances, it would be justifiable to say, let's defer it. The one that I heard today was further development of a YouTube channel. The village's survival doesn't depend on that, and it's a time drain. Even if he's not doing it, it's something he has to worry about. And finally, I hope that one of our objectives as a committee is to have to shoehorn these jobs into normal work days. And a classic example that I would change, that was a change several years ago, predating Brian, was requiring that members of the staff show up for every one of these committee meetings and take minutes. Prior to that, the committees took their own minutes and submitted them. So hauling somebody in an evening for a meeting, if anybody at the meeting can be trained to use whatever equipment you need to use for zooming, if continuing to Zoom is a high priority, and I query that for these committee meetings, those are the kind of things that would be quick fixes, or at least take us in the direction of pushing these jobs into more livable qualities. When you have people like Chrissy and predecessors who are expected to show up early or late for these meetings, when and in fact, part of the interview process that I've sat through is saying to people, are you prepared to come and spend 1 or 2 nights a month at a meeting? And you had to say yes in order to do it. That's not ancient history. That's a recent development where there are other ways to solve the problem. And to the extent it makes the job more palatable and squishes it back into the workday, I think it's something that needs immediate attention, because frankly, it wouldn't take that much work to brainstorm what can we immediately defer, so that or eliminate, that would begin to pat these into the dough into the pie pan.
Thank you, Erica. By the way, just to clarify, are you proposing that we do that in this meeting, or that be a proposal from Brian, or how do we tackle that?
Well, what I was leaving to you, Carol, was I don't know that this rises to the level of a recommendation of the board. It seems to me something the Personnel Committee could simply request of the staff, and how you choose to handle that from a parliamentary standpoint, I don't know, but I don't see where that doesn't advance our objectives, and it isn't a costly thing to do. It's something that might actually yield some positive results. But I defer to you of what you want to do with it.
Okay, thanks, Erica. For right now, I'm going to go to Mary.
Really quickly, I do think that I'm on a number of boards now that we use AI to do all the minutes. And I think there's something that could be done fairly easily with somebody coming in and showing us how to do it, that we would not have to require staff to come in at night.
Erica, Mary, what I can say really quickly, ironically, right before this meeting, I sent the new committee lists and responsibilities from a staff management oversight standpoint out to our department head team to take a look at what I put together. But my plan for the remainder of this year was there are a few committees that we already have department heads participating in, namely our pool committee meeting, our Parks and Rec committee meeting, and our Public Works committee meeting, and then Public Health and Safety. So I've asked the four respective department heads that most closely align with their attendance in those meetings to see if they could be the one responsible for having a member of that committee essentially do the minutes on their behalf, and that they can run the meeting and hit the record button as part of the meeting to take that off the administrative staff's plate, since they're already supposed to participate in those meetings. And that way we could free up at least 4 additional meetings from the admin team's expected monthly participation. So it's a start. It isn't going to fix everything, but we'll try it and see if it helps for the short term.
Thank you, Mary and Brian. Koki's next.
Just very quickly in relation to that, Brian, I think that's a great idea, obviously. And just back in the day, also, a lot of those meetings were held during the work hours. So that might be another thing that you could look into.
I can again bring that up, but we have in the recent past asked if that could happen. And we did receive some pushback, not from all committees, and I don't know that all the committees were officially asked. Some committee, I think committee chairs may have asked, and given the makeup of the committee, so many people were still working full-time jobs that they couldn't make that happen as part of their day, that I think it didn't gain enough traction to actually move forward.
Yes, that falls in the category of spoiled residents, continuing category. So thank you for being patient with them.
I'm wondering if we could develop a set of choices, either meet during the day, or if meeting outside of the day, you must have a Zoom recording to accompany your self-taken minutes. I wonder if that would suffice, because minutes can be extremely spare just to meet the statutory requirements. But what people are wanting is a little color. They want to know kind of how the discussion went. And if the Zoom recording is available, maybe that is a compromise that we could come to, so that no staff had to be there unless they already had to be there, like Patrick has to come to Parks, for example. So that's a proposal. So I think what I'm hearing is that we want triage. Just to use the words in the way that they were used by Greg, so we don't get confused. We want we want a longer term. We want a for the future assessment of functions in order to and part of that is stratifying by statutory / required and nice to have, which I don't think is that flip. I mean, living in Shorewood is really nice because we have all the nice to haves. So I think that is an exercise that has to be undertaken outside this meeting. We can't do it right now, except to say, I think I can say that that everybody here acknowledges that there's some stuff like the YouTube channel, like the website updates, that we just can't have our current staff doing right now. We just don't have the capacity, and I assume that everybody here understands that. I don't know if we need to make a motion about that to the board. I don't think we do. Yeah. I think that the motions too that we need to make to the board are to approve an LTE position for open records fulfillment, open records request fulfillment, and to approve an LTE position for comms and recreation program oversight. Yeah, Greg.
And Carol, what about the compensation piece? Where does that go for Taylor?
For Taylor, yeah.
I don't want to
Okay,
lose
so
track of that. And like Taylor said, it's not about the money, but I think we want, I mean, my senses of the group is that we would like to do something for Taylor in that regard. More importantly for Taylor, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, Taylor, but I think it's the alleviation of the pressures of all the, all the duties, extra duties that you have to do beyond what you were hired to do. So I want to acknowledge that, but I also don't want to lose track of that compensation piece.
good. Thanks, Greg. And by the way, let me just back up for 1 second, Brian, since I saw you writing down. We're not going to approve, we're going to recommend. Recommend to the board LTE for open records request fulfillment and recommend for LTE for comms and rec oversight. Okay, compensation for Taylor. So there can be lumps, there can be bonuses for overtime, although you have to be careful about that because it is an exempt position. And I know Gloria has looked at that. I'm gonna open that up to everybody for ideas, including Gloria, if you would like to comment.
You're asking, I was kind of doing a couple other things, sort of. I'm sorry, I was
It's
listening,
okay.
but I was just kind of briefly listening.
Yeah, we've come to the point of trying to figure out, in addition to any new staff we want to take on temporarily or permanently, we got to figure out how to compensate Taylor for the extra work that he's been doing. So he's already done overtime work, and in over the next couple of weeks, it's probably going to be hard to make that dynamic change. So how do we compensate Taylor for extra work already done and extra work that may be done in future?
Well, and that was what, thanks for calling on me again, but
Mhm.
that was one of the reasons I was asking the committee to engage Taylor, because I think he's best positioned to answer that. Greg, I've already written you an email thanking you for your input today. I find it really constructive and very just on point in terms of longer term thinking. I think the LTE hiring for Taylor, I think it will help. So many ideas have been thrown out here that I didn't want to talk about online today because I'm not part of this committee. But for Taylor, for the compensation, what struck me when I started poking around on this, and I sent an email to the board already. Brian Mooney was on copy. Taylor, I did not put you on copy. Um, but I also posted it to the village resident um, group email thing that has been attempted to create some sort of uniform place for everyone to go to for information. But what struck me is looking at Taylor's position and comparing it to the former clerk's position, the pay was the same. The former clerk left to go work for the city of Monona for a $20,000 raise with a lateral move in terms of position. But yet at the same time, we have here the former clerk of the city of Monona working for the village of Shorewood Hills. And I found that to be really kind of interesting. Like, why is that we have the former clerk from the city of Monona working here in the village? And I think it has to do with probably just office dynamics in the city of Monona. But regardless, Ms. Call went to the city of Monona for a $20,000 pay increase. But yet we have Mr. Wall here who I believe has more education background. He comes to the village with more experience working in the municipal clerk world than our former clerk had, despite her 10 years experience working in municipal capacity. She worked from office assistant and worked her way up, which is really admirable. But Mr. Wall comes to us with a college degree, and I don't think he worked his way up from office assistant. I think he began working with the city of Madison in the capacity of a professional clerk like position. And I haven't seen your resume, Mr. Wall, but that's my impression, is that you have that experience at that level, which I think has real value to it. I personally think I think he could have a higher compensation, just not even to retain, but just because that's what he should be. And I've heard this discussion about deputy village administrator. That's something I've been talking about for years, since we had our former administrator here. I think that there's value to having somebody who has sort of the bigger picture work. And my brief interactions with Mr. Wall is that he would be exactly the type of person that we would be looking to groom for that position. So if I don't know, I hear from him that he is not looking for money. That's not going to solve the problem whether he stays or go, but he's a reasonable person and isn't going to say that, oh, please don't pay me. He's not working here as a volunteer. Um, it's a difficult thing, because I think that Mr. Wall has in front of him an opportunity for so much growth professionally and so much of a career trajectory that he won't necessarily have at the city of Madison. And I think that is our carrot. Um, but I think that he needs and he deserves that support. But part of the support he needs is the finance support, because Ms. Fitzgerald offered that ability to sort of help him along. But having spoken yesterday with the person that we have temping in Ms. Fitzgerald's former position, she has good experience. It's just not in the municipal capacity. She is a former office manager, like for accounting. She knows accounting. She's a former accounting manager. So she's got really, really good experience. And maybe somebody like that working with Mr. Wall would be able to fill the problems. I guess I would like Mr. Wall to just more specifically say, what do you need?
Thank you, Gloria. Taylor.
Yeah, so I think, to clarify, I would want a permanent increase in pay if the way everything shakes out is such that my responsibilities are more. Otherwise, if we anticipate my position description being the same upon when I was hired, after the introduction of these two potential LTEs, or, and I will keep saying this, maybe even one full-time person, even though that might not be a motion you present right now. If my position description remains the same in that case, I would be happy with some interim bonus.
Thank you, Taylor. That really helps to know what the situation is, what we need to do. So I think what that sounds like is that you're giving us a little bit of space to get these LTEs and see what happens. Is that fair? And
Yes.
Yeah, and at the same time, to begin a process of reanalysis, stratifying job. Boy, we got somebody talking in the background there. Or is that me somehow? Hmm. Everybody's muted? Sounds okay, that sounds better. I was getting some kind of weird feedback. Um, so what it sounds like, I'm just stating so that everybody's clear, and then I'll go to you, Erica. It sounds like recommend the LTEs, the two, and launch a reanalysis of must-haves, like-to-haves, and then think about what other permanent positions may be required, whatever reshuffling may be required, and keep checking in with Taylor about whether we've actually got him back down to his job description or not. Is that it? And so is that a fair description of what we said?
Well,
I had Erica and
Yeah.
then Greg. Yeah, thanks.
I just want to, Carol, clarify. I fully agree that I'm all for bringing in people to help. And there is some kind of a funny sound coming through mine too, so I don't know why. But I know that the open records help will help Taylor, but this other position, I don't hear that that's directly addressing Taylor's concerns. That sounds like that's something broader. Am I misunderstanding? And does that include thinking you're going to keep running with the YouTube channel priority?
Brian, you wanna, I mean, I'm under the impression that nothing is happening with the YouTube channel. I think maybe staff would appreciate some kind of directive that that is not required at this time. Is that fair, Brian?
It is, but I would also add that some of the open records requests that have been submitted of late pertain to meetings, recordings of the meetings for what, for certain days, certain committee meetings. So those open records requests would resolve themselves if we had an ability to get those materials onto a YouTube channel for future retention purposes where they can be accessed at any time. So we're kind of in this catch-22. We don't have enough time to get that done, but then it's leading to open records requests because they can't access the information. And the village Facebook page used to retain these videos, but then Facebook updated their own retention policy to a maximum of 30 days and then they're removed. So that's kind of caused some of this, I think, problem as well. And I don't, I'm trying to bring some Sam from our team into familiarity with how to upload some of these when there are moments where she might be able to do so. Again, this is a challenge of having four brand new people around me, all with different needs, and I'm never been asked for more of my time than the last couple of weeks. So I've been just excessively busy and I haven't been able to give them that training.
Yes, Erica.
I can't help myself, but is there a cost to having all this housed on a YouTube channel? Is there any question about the underlying sensibility of supporting having to be able to access video of meetings more than 30 days later when you have minutes from a meeting? It just seems like there's some predicates here that if those are being taken as assumptions that feed into work requirements or for all I know with YouTube, it's free, but if there's an expense involved in paying for it or servicing it in any way, those are costs to the village. We seem to be building this pyramid of requirements when in fact the basics were You have a meeting that's an open meeting. People can attend the meeting. You have minutes from the meeting. Why in God's name are you taking pathetically limited resources and spending them on, to me, what would be is an embellishment? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Erica. I'm going to wait to make a comment until after Greg.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to bring us back to the compensation piece briefly. I think we have sort of the wording for a proposal for that based on what Taylor shared with us, which I really like that the way he packaged that for us, and I don't want to lose track of that. We have a short-term proposal for a bonus of some sort, and then we have a longer-term consideration of salary increase. And I just really like that framework for a proposal. I think it doesn't commit us to a salary increase, but we need to get it into the record so that as we do this shifting with these two LTE positions, revisit with Taylor and with Brian and determine, okay, based on these actions, now let's consider, right, the salary increase. So I just like that framework of short-term, long-term, since we've been using that all the way through the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Koki.
Carolyn and Taylor, I don't know if this is possible, but would one temporary solution be to make Taylor's position non-exempt so that he would qualify for overtime? I don't know if the Department of Labor requirements would allow that given his salary and his workload, but is that something that could be explored?
Thank you, Koki. I wondered that myself when I was reading about overtime and exempt employees. Brian, do you know the answer to that?
I do not know the answer to that at this moment. In the past, the at least the past rounds of hiring, the positions were posted as pertaining to non-exempt status, so they were salaried positions, and I don't know how and what the trigger is, or if that's something that the village position descriptions when they were approved entertained. I really don't know how to go back and analyze that. I'll look at the position descriptions. I can have this conversation with Carol going forward. I know one of the other trustees had brought up in, most of the positions here should be after you hit 42 hours or something that you should qualify for overtime. But the other flips to that is we're already maxed out for our budget capacity. I don't know how we build that in, except you'd have to use some kind of unassigned fund balance, piece to account for unanticipated overtime usage. And I don't really know how to prepare a budget around that when I don't know how many hours those are really going to amount to be and the total cost either.
Good points, Brian. I think maybe as we look into those, if that structural change is even possible, maybe we can orient the calculation of a bonus instead for immediate consideration that's based on some estimate of the amount of time that Taylor has already worked overtime. So I guess a month with 10 to 20 hours a week more than were allotted, correct? Yeah, Mary.
I think if a salaried person ends up working in essentially a different department, they can be eligible for overtime. If if he suddenly became a police officer, he could be eligible for overtime in that department. But I don't know if everything that he's being asked to do falls under the umbrella of other duties as assigned in the job description that he had. So that's where I think it gets fuzzy.
I am not sure that I followed that, Mary. Are you saying that as long as he's doing uh, tasks that are on his position description that we can't pay him a bonus?
No, I think we can do bonuses. I just was
Okay, okay,
overtime. No, I think bonus,
okay.
no problem at
Yeah.
all.
Okay,
I,
yeah, the overtime piece is much more tricky. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, Erica.
I have, as you I've made clear, great regard for Taylor. He's a talent, but I don't think our objective needs to be figuring out how many hours he worked and then compensating him at the rate as a bonus. I think that would be wrong. I think that does a disservice to everybody else who's working in the village, doing that. I think it's not, I don't support that. I do support coming up, recognizing it has not been a long time that this has been going on, that there should be something that we do that is essentially recognizes that this was he well, he didn't bite off more than he can chew, but he's been asked to chew what he was more than he was expecting to bite. And so I do support something to be done. I also think that we should review the compensation for the clerk position, given the experience and education of the current incumbent, as you do with each hire. And to the extent that the compensation was no different than what we offered uh, uh, his predecessor, it may be that that should be reviewed. And I say all of this with my understanding that Taylor may still choose to leave. And as far as I'm concerned, that's perfectly okay with me, because I think he needs to do with his own life what we all want to do with our own lives, and that is to live it to the best we can.
Okay, thanks, Erica. Did anybody have their hand up there um, on the committee? Uh, okay, um, so we don't want to structure the bonus as overtime. We want it to be, I mean, according to Erica, what Erica just said, we want it to be something else. Um, I'm a little leery of bonuses without clawback, only because we just did that and it didn't go well for us. Um, so I guess I'm looking to the committee for ideas and Gloria, if you have a idea about bonuses that you can state briefly, um, I'll take that if that's what you're willing to want to comment on.
Thank you. Yes, I do think that Taylor should get a small bonus, small meaning maybe $1,000 for this last month overtime that he did. To the answer about exempt versus non-exempt, that's something that falls in the Department of Labor. Um, so it's very clearly defined. Taylor does need to be considered a salaried employee because of his position. I don't know about departments working that department about overtime. It might be that what Mary was describing is exactly true, but he does need to be a salaried employee. And I think that the way to move forward is to adjust his salary and his job description so that it encompasses what he's actually doing. Because to go forward and say, okay, Taylor, at the end of all this, we want you to go back to doing what
So,
you were described to be doing when you were
Gloria,
hired. I think
yeah,
it's really asking him to take a demotion in a way, because you're asking him to step up right now, make his job description fit what he's actually doing. Thank you.
thanks, Gloria. All right. Um, any other comments about the structure of a bonus or salary adjustment at this time? I mean, salary adjustment is not what Taylor was asking for in the very short term, I don't believe. He was giving us a more of a two-phase idea. which I think would be more feasible for the village to execute because Taylor isn't the only one who's been working overtime. Aline is also working long hours and Brian is also working long hours. So I think that salary adjustments on the basis of working long hours gets us into equity things that deserve a little longer, a little more thought, a little more planning. So it was my perception based on what Taylor said that what we're thinking about for right now, only for right now, is a bonus. So and I was trying to right size the bonus based on any framework, any idea that we have out there. I mean, Gloria suggested $1,000. I haven't done the math here to say, is that in the ballpark? Um, I, I I don't know. Any comments from the committee? Mary?
What is the compensation that Taylor's receiving now?
Taylor or Brian, do you have that at hand?
I think my hourly rate for 40 hours is 37.20.
Okay.
But I can check.
So your annual salary, is it 80,000?
76?
76?
77.5.
77.5. Okay.
I mean, I think $1,000 right now is fine. But I do also have, I mean, I look at Brian and I look at Aline. I have a little bit of issue with it, but I also think that Gloria made some good points about whether we want someone that has some stability. It, I lost my connection for a while. So did you pass that we're going to recommend to the board hiring the communications and
We
the,
haven't
Okay.
actually made those motions yet. We're
okay, because
still,
what order are we doing these in? I guess is what I'm getting
okay.
down to.
Maybe we should knock out the recommendations to do with LTEs and then we can refocus on the bonus.
Compensation.
Is that
Yeah.
is that okay? Okay. So, Brian, I think you're the one taking minutes, it kind of sounds like, or taking notes.
Yeah,
Okay. So I move to recommend to the board to approve an a limited term employee to fulfill open records requests.
So at what percentage?
Brian, we have just that might be so temporary or part-time, not full-time. How much part-time? I don't know. How specific do we have to be, Brian?
Um, yeah, I guess this is where I need to figure this out yet and haven't had much time to look at this. How about yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna have the time to pull this together right now for as part of this motion. I mean, maybe we can do it
Well,
not
can you
not to exceed
ballpark how many
amounts.
hours, Taylor, are you doing
Not to exceed, yeah.
open records right now per week?
So I I would like to do 10 more hours per week, and I probably do 5 to 10.
Okay, so what if we just said a 50% temporary, or for a 50% LTE to respond to open records and any other duties as assigned? Because I think you may find somebody that gets us caught up in 3 weeks or maybe not 3 months. I don't know, but let's leave it a little open-ended, but that would be my suggestion.
What about simply not to exceed
Yeah,
50%?
whatever.
Good, that's
Or
helpful.
20 hours a week if you want to put it in terms of hours.
Yep. Erica.
Brian, do you have a place to house this person? I mean, just logistically, is there a way to implement this?
Yeah, I mean, at the very worst case scenario, we could have the person working from one of the village laptops in the conference room. So we should be able to make it work.
All right, so the motion at this point reads to recommend to the board approval of an LTE position for open records fulfillment not to exceed 20 hours a week.
I would add a clause that it can be a little bit more than just open records.
Oh, yes,
Because-
sorry, I forgot about that.
Other
Or
duties-
other duties as assigned for
And
not
then
to
do we want to do
exceed.
this? Yeah, for
Yeah.
6 months? Not,
There are rules about that.
Okay.
Because we can only approve one for up to 4 weeks, and then after that,
Okay.
it has to be reapproved in chunks of 8 weeks.
Good.
So yeah, that's in the personnel manual, which
Okay.
we haven't talked about in quite some time. So yeah, those rules are baked in. We would have to do the board would have to do the reapproval of that position. Yeah. Are we at the position where somebody could second?
I'll second.
Awesome. Any further discussion on the LTE for open records? Okay. Ready to vote? Okay. Before let me back up. Does the compensation level doesn't have to be in there, Brian?
That is the one piece I don't know.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know what we would even be able to pull off right now. I think I have to build that around what we have in our contingency for this budget year.
Okay. Okay. So everybody ready to vote, knowing that we don't know that? Okay. All in favor? All right. We got that carries. Motion carries. And then the next, I would like to make a motion to recommend to the board to approve an LTE position for communications and recreation oversight and any other assigned duties not to exceed, is this one supposed to be half-time as well? Not to exceed,
Actually, that makes sense to me for right now.
not to exceed 20 hours a week?
Mhm.
That's the motion. Brian, do you have that written down?
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Mary. Can we
think I've
please
got
read
that.
it? Okay, can you please read it to me?
Recommend an LTE position geared towards communications and recreation not to exceed 20 hours and other duties as assigned not to exceed 20 hours a week.
Okay. Okay, and Mary seconds that? Okay, discussion? Erica?
I'm not sure what the communications piece is. I think I would probably put it in the opposite order, recreation support and communications. But I'd like to hear what you all think communications is going to accomplish. I just don't understand what that body of work is that we're taking off of other people. And I have a tangential question, and that is, I know Dane is in the office, and I don't, who is he paid from swimming pool revenues? Is that what does he do? He's swimming pool, and is he full-time? Because that seems a real luxury of time on his part, and I wonder Um, is that, does that have any relationship at all to what you're contemplating for the rec calls? And are the rec calls, do they lend themselves to is it a better to look at it in terms of a brief full-time position in the heavy season when the calls are coming in and the paperwork's being processed than to have it be a half-time position where people are going to be bedeviling the rest of the staff by saying that person isn't here until tomorrow. Would you be better off with an LTE full-time position for an abbreviated period of time to handle kind of the blizzard? Just a couple of queries.
I think you then have to look at seasonal employee if you get to that kind of category, which has some different sets of rules.
Yeah. Brian, do you want to respond to Erica's question?
Sure. In fairness to Dane, he has been relied upon to a great extent right now while we've been in this transition mode in the administrative office to assist with various aspects of the recreational programs. That being said, as soon as the pool opens, Dane is a not very often seen individual. He is on site and attending to everything pool. He is full time, but the expectation is because of his hourly commitment over summer that he does phase down at the off season time of year. He's putting in an exceptional number of additional hours when the pool is open. Um, I think that discussion piece about the best fit for assistance in the rec program realm, it definitely ramps up and it really starts like the last month and a half through the end of summer, obviously. Um, so there might be an ability to do that. It's just going to be a position that would be very hard to have continuity with, I think, if it were only seasonal because it would take a substantial amount of that institutional knowledge to then train somebody coming in to replace that person on a year-to-year basis. And that's what we're lacking right now is we just don't have that institutional knowledge on how to get that person fully up to speed. So anyone that's brought in is probably going to be someone I'm going to have David Sykes work with to get them really trained on what it is they need to do to effectively handle that role.
Erica.
Could I just ask Brian, do you see meaningful assistance then with adding this LTE position? I mean,
In this,
or would you rather have the help in a different way with the
yeah,
same dollars?
yeah, correct. I mean, in the standpoint of it taking that burden off of Taylor in the near short term, yes. Um, Taylor has not received sufficient training in how to manage the recreational programs. And we are Taylor's departure away from me placing t-shirt orders for soccer at this current state of our admin team staffing. So I would like to try to do something that we can stabilize this. And if this is the means to start, I'm happy to give it a try. But we also would have to find someone to do it. So that it's not guaranteed that we will be able to bring somebody in once we run the calculations of what we have the money to do.
I guess I kind of like the idea of listing communications first because I envision a new grad from in communications who might want to take the job, at this time of year.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas, yeah, uh, perhaps the same is true of rec. I don't know, but that was what came into my head. Anybody else? Any further discussion? Because at this point, we still have a half-time LTE that we're recommending for communications and rec or rec and communications. I I don't know if it matters, but which comes first? Any other discussion? Are we ready to vote then? Okay, okay, all in favor of the motion, yes. Okay. Mary, is that a yes?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay,
And
okay, motion carries. All right, so we're recommending to the board these two LTE positions, not to exceed half-time. So back to the bonus for Taylor. Um, the idea of $1,000 has been proposed. Koki.
I just wonder, Eileen was referred to, I'm afraid Brian too. Does she receive overtime?
I'm so
Okay.
sorry, Koki. Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure, I'm
Please.
sorry. My question was just considering parity, does Eileen receive overtime?
Aleen's position does qualify for overtime
Okay.
currently.
Has
Thank you.
has she been taking those hours? Is that a fair question to ask?
I actually did approve her to work some extra hours on some of the backlog stuff this week.
Okay.
Since she was previously a public administration associates employee up until the most recent pay period, she was working hours and that was billed through them. I am now approving her for overtime as a village
Okay.
employee.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So that makes the decision a little simpler. Um, uh, so any other ideas about the bonus for now? Mary, and then, yeah, Mary.
I still, I mean, I just think of Brian. I just can't ignore that Brian has been working night and day too. So that's the only thing I'd like to have on the table.
Yep, it's true. I can vouch for that.
Yep.
Um, so
So okay, so then I'll say both of them. Let's start there.
so you're making a motion to recommend to the board $1,000 bonuses each for Taylor and Brian with or without clawback. I think we're still developing the motion here. With or without clawback in the event that
Well,
they leave. Um, I don't know. We should make that clear.
I
Yeah.
guess, okay, my feeling is that we're paying for what they've already done. So this one I would not say a clawback, but I don't, if it won't pass through the board without a clawback, then that's something we have to consider.
Yeah.
Mary, I am already in this approved realm of retention bonus, so I don't want to complicate anything further. Honestly, I don't even know how to process this from a payroll processing standpoint now. It's going to take a little bit of time for me to figure out.
I
But
have
I do want
somebody
to
who'll
add
make
that
it
I
up.
am on, I already have something that the board is,
Okay,
has me under right now.
Right.
okay.
That we approved. Or that we recommended. Yes, Erica.
I would recommend we then limit the recommendation to Taylor and that there be no clawback. I think what I'm hearing is we're trying to address an unexpected surge of work he didn't expect when he took the job 5 weeks before he resigned from the job. And I think it's fair to look at it. And the idea of then asking for some of it back, then you're putting conditions on it that frankly I wouldn't accept if those were the basis on which I was given it. So I recommend no clawback.
Okay. Any other comments before we try to rephrase or restate? So the motion would be to recommend to the board to approve a $1,000 bonus for Taylor, period. It's end of motion. It's not a retention bonus per se. It's a bonus to recognize work already done. Correct? Okay. All right. Does that sound, do you have that, Brian?
If you can repeat it one more time, please.
Yeah, I believe that the motion is to recommend to the board to grant a $1,000 bonus to Mr. Wall. And I don't know if we need to add the clause of what it's for.
Koki has something.
Go ahead, Koki.
What?
Save me here.
I didn't mean to interrupt your thought, Carol, but I just wonder if that is the motion. I wonder if Taylor has an opinion about it. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I'm fine with that. Certainly, my resignation letter said the 22nd is my final day. I appreciate that everyone's rushing for this, and I also apologize for the stress that causes. I would feel a little ooky, to use a technical term, walking away with $1 grand in my pocket, but please just recognize that's still a possibility.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess this is why I was trying to think of a framework for the size of the bonus based on the work that we're thanking him for that was already done, the extra work at approximately, I mean, just to enable me to make a calculation at $40 an hour times 4 weeks times 10 to 20 extra hours a week. Correct? Trying to get my
That's around $2,000.
Yeah. So
If if the goal is to try to basically raise his hourly rate, then just say it. I think I view it as a gesture to thank Taylor for what he did. And honestly, I think when you start working your way down the pathway of let's calculate the hourly rate and let's compensate him for every hour that was demanded of him, you end up with some outcomes you may regret. And that's not to say Taylor wasn't worth his weight in gold. 1,000 doesn't do the justice to what he offered the village at a very critical point. But I do think we need to kind of keep our heads in the game here. And this is a thank you. It's not a compensation.
Any other comments along those lines?
I just wanted to quickly remind everyone that the challenge facing the village right now is twofold. We want to keep our people here, and it's expensive, and it isn't necessarily seen the expenses that go into constantly replacing staff. So when we have good people, I mean, we really got to do our part to keep everybody and keep some continuity here. The spillover stress for all is definitely felt as this continues and we keep rebuilding on a one step forward, 2 steps back basis. So I appreciate everything that everyone has said today, and I will try to continue to relay this messaging to the board. I don't think it's something we have the abilities to fix ourselves today, but all efforts on this behalf, I think, are very much appreciated.
Koki.
So, given Brian's comments, and we're batting around what number would be appropriate to compensate Taylor for the time that he has the additional time he's put in recently to let him know how much we appreciate his service to the village. Brian, do you have a number that would be most comfortable to you that you think is appropriate and also fits in your budget?
If honestly, I mean, I like the bonus that you're proposing, that $1,000 to $2,000 bonus. I would say for the sake of ensuring continuity here, I would suggest something along the lines of continuing a retention bonus for the duration of 2026, like the other admin staff that have departed had, just to ensure that we can keep Taylor. But again, with a clawback, because unfortunately we have not had the success from that, but I do want to do our part to try to keep this together.
Uh, yes, Erica, and then Mary.
I guess maybe I'm not getting it, but is this call in the nature of a negotiation to get Taylor to agree to change his mind? In which case, bonus away people to the end of the year. My understanding is that Taylor is leaving and that we're thanking him for what he did for us while he was here. Is there more to this? Is there an agenda that, I'm not getting the dog whistle?
I'm afraid that may be my fault, that I didn't make clear that there is a chink of daylight that Taylor has communicated that we might be able to keep him. So we are trying to figure out how to create the conditions where he feels good about staying. And they are short term, they're long term, they have to do with ORRs, they have to do with other stuff. So yes, Taylor's letter is sitting there, but he has signaled that he's willing to consider what we might do to keep him. So hooray! Oh my God, hooray! But now we have the task of figuring this out. So sorry, Erica, that I didn't make that more clear.
Well, what's the signal then? If their signal is, I want this, and this, why are we dancing around not even knowing what the objective is?
Well, one of the
I don't
signals,
appreciate this.
sorry, Erica, one of the signals was to move the ORR responsibilities off his plate. That was one. So I think we're on a path to that. Another one was the third one was to address the structural problem of too much work for too few people. That was the third one. The one we're dealing with is the second one in the middle. How to make life more tenable in the meantime, while he's hopefully still here. So that's what we're working on right now. And the LTEs have to do with that, but also, I mean, he's been working overtime and not getting paid for it. So how do and beyond the expectations of a salaried individual, somebody who has to work weird hours from time to time. This is it's beyond that. So my apologies, Erica, that I didn't make it clear that we're actually trying to retain Taylor. That's one of the things we're doing here. So I'll let you if you want clarification, and then I got to go back to Mary.
Yeah, just a quick question. Are we in your concept of what you're promoting in terms of going forward, are you pinning it all on a clawbacked bonus based on salary, or an adjustment to base based on a reevaluation of his qualifications and market conditions that would not involve a bonus, or both of them? And to the extent that we're interested in the propriety of allocating his position as an exempt one versus a salaried one, have you sought counsel from the village attorney over the propriety of you need a labor lawyer to tell you where he should end up given his responsibilities. I mean, that, and if you haven't done that, I don't think it's a question of just flipping a switch. Although evidently it's been switched before, but that's not the way to do it. It's a question of evaluating the position according to the law. So I would recommend you, if that's contemplated, that you are evaluating which bucket does that position fall in, and if it warrants a change, then you're really compelled to make the change because of the law. And otherwise, well, I'll stop there. I think I made my points.
Thanks, Erica. Mary was waiting.
And I'm fine.
You're fine.
I'll
Okay.
pass.
Okay. So, so in my mind, and maybe my mind wasn't completely communicated, it sounds like, um, the salary adjustment for Taylor is on the docket for later. Bonus structure is on the docket for right now. So, and given the fact that it's both, I believe retention is the primary thing we're hoping for. So I guess it's a retention bonus. And I agree with Brian that a bonus with clawbacks is much more likely to be successful at the board level. So I'll leave it there for now. Can you maybe we should be reminded of what the bonus amount was for the recent ones that were granted to Julie. For example, the one that was granted to Julie, how was that, the size and the structure, Brian?
I'm going to have to double check my notes and go back. I think there was a $5,000 appreciation bonus and a figure which I do not remember off the top of my head that I have to check as far as for the duration of the year. So I will see what I can find on that quickly.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna go to Taylor. Yes.
I actually looked this up because of a question Gloria asked earlier this week. The bonuses were 5,000 for Julie, 5,000 for Brian, 2.5K for Katie. And then the retention, like long-term situations were 12K, 12K, 7.5K.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Okay. So that's what we were looking at. And that is the situation that Brian is still operating under for his retention bonus.
So
Koki.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, so we're saying that Julie received 5,000 and then an additional 12,000 that was clawed back portion of it because
subject to clawback, right?
Thank you.
Yep. So, I guess if we want to,
Yeah, can I
yes,
interrupt and
please,
just say,
please.
do you have any idea how those $5,000 and $12,000 figures were calculated?
Well, I know that Katie got half of the other two because she was less senior. She was junior. The amounts that we were working with in general. I think this committee felt that those were substantial enough to make a difference. That was the main idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, Koki.
I'm sorry, I'm apologizing. I missed that meeting, so
Oh,
sorry to drag you into this conversation again. Thank
no
you.
worries, no worries.
The
Yeah,
lumps, in my recollection, the lump sum bonuses were for the staff for the sake of for the last, better part of
yes,
at least for Katie's time and Julie and my time, we were operating at a significant deficit of full-time staff members in the administrative team. So that was an appreciation bonus, and the rest was the retention bonus that was commiserate with trying to keep everybody stable and operating, functioning admin team for the duration of 2026.
thanks, Brian. Erica, you had your hand up.
I don't remember the amount of the retention bonuses, and I don't remember the amount that came out of this committee. And do you recall if the board adjusted what we recommended? That number doesn't resonate for me. I'm remembering something like 7,500. So I don't remember owning the 12,000 figure, and is what I'm saying, which is fine, but just so we clarify that the board can do whatever it wants. All we're doing is recommending. They may decide to double or triple what we suggest. It isn't as though we're deciding the bonuses.
That's right. That's right. I don't recall the board changing the numbers at all. Yeah. Taylor.
Erica saying that makes me doubt my 12K, because if 7.5K was Katie's, I would assume double that is what was offered to Brian and
So
Julie.
15
I'm
and
bring that up
15.
quick here. Yeah, I think it might have been 15.
I think that's right. So I've got two things to talk about then. If we want to do this the same way with an appreciation bonus and a clawback retention bonus, both, and also then what should be the size of each one, if that is the case.
I think there's a motion on the table, Brian. I made one, right? Was it not seconded? So we can just cut that out?
We started with a motion, recommend a motion to the board for a bonus to Taylor of $1,000 for his additional work.
For past additional work, yeah.
Yeah, past additional work.
Okay.
But that was never seconded.
Right.
So I think it's
moot. Yeah.
It's moot, yeah. Eric, are you commenting, Erica?
Well, I don't think you called for a second. I think we just got off track.
We were just trying, yeah. I think we were just trying to get the words right.
I would hope Mary would renew it, just because I think we really never, it didn't die for lack of interest. It died because we detoured.
Okay, and it's still there.
I guess I'm wondering though, are we at a different point? Are we at a different spot now? Because Erica, you were operating under different assumptions. And now I hope we're all on the same page. And that's my fault. Sorry about that. Hastily called meeting with not all the info at hand. So,
But do you want to do them as two separate things, or do you want them combined? I mean, it may be advantageous to separate them.
I mean, I think the concept is fine. I mean, we approved it before. There's appreciation for work already done, and there's a retention bonus also.
I think, if I can make a suggestion, from where we're at right now, if we can do the kind of mimic what was done for the rest of the admin team, we have the savings from the costs that we didn't pay out for the staff that we lost. So that money is somewhat already spoken for in some respects. If we could do the 1,000 bonus for the last month for Taylor, and then we're basically going to be operating with half a year left. We can split whatever that amount was and say for the next 6 months with the assumption being you leave, it's prorated for the next 6 months. You leave, you don't get the full payout, but for as long as you're here, you're going to qualify for half of that retention bonus, I should say.
As long as you're here, you're going to qualify for half of the retention bonus?
Half of the amount that the other administrative staff, myself, Julie, were approved for. If we can do, we're operating with half a year left, essentially, by the time this takes effect. He gets 1,000.
I see.
Just half of whatever that was approved, that would make it about the same.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion on that? So what we are proposing, just trying to scope out the words before we actually make a motion. We're proposing an appreciation bonus of $1,000 and a retention bonus of $7,500 to be paid out over the remaining pay periods of 2026 with clawback on the retention part. Is that it?
I think someone just added something to the chat here on.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Taylor added it. I'm sorry.
Sorry, just to clarify, this was from the February meeting, so my thought of their next 10 months was, I'm just assuming here, to be paid out over the rest of the year.
Okay. Just trying to catch up here. So do the amounts that I stated, 1K for appreciation bonus, 7.5 for retention bonus with clawback, are those the amounts that we're going for? Yeah, yep, okay. All right, so I'll state the motion one more time, just so that, or maybe Brian, you read what we have, and we'll see if it goes.
Okay, so I have a motion by Barford for a $1,000 appreciation bonus for Taylor and a $7,500 retention increase for the duration of 2026. You said with clawback, I believe, but I think it's just going to end effective. So prorated,
Right.
And end upon departure if employee separates.
Right, very good. So yeah, so we're going to recommend that to the board.
And I'll second it so we can have a discussion if needed.
Thank you, Greg. All right. Any comments then? Anybody want to discuss further? Greg.
Taylor, I think this does reflect what you had laid out so well for us in terms of the short term, long term. This is not long term, it's just longer term than the short term. But, I think that in some ways might cover revisiting your salary, at least in the short term, by having these retention bonuses added. And I just wanted to check in with you to see if that is satisfactory for you.
Yeah, that's certainly satisfactory. I do have other opportunities on my table, but I've agreed with Brian that I will make a final decision by Monday. So but I do appreciate this and find it satisfactory.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Koki, were you gonna? Oh, no, I saw your arm moving. Yes, any other discussion before we vote? Okay, it was my motion and Greg seconded and all in favor? Raise your hand. All right, thank you. Motion carries. All right. You all are stalwarts for being in this meeting so long. We have really important business to attend to here. I can't think of anything more important right now in the village, to tell the truth. So in my mind, we've completed item 7 on the agenda. Will anybody with future agenda items in addition to the reanalysis of functions and assessment of salary? Yeah, Erica.
I would like to request that we consider a, a, a thank you bonus for Jan in the police department. I think in the toughest hours of the village's life this past winter, she was she was a very important player, and I was unaware of her contribution at the time we doled out the $2,500 to Katie. And I feel badly that given what I believe Jan to have contributed over more time, really selflessly to keep things afloat, we've overlooked an opportunity to thank somebody who really came through for us at a difficult time. And I regret that I didn't know about it, but having that now I know about it, I feel bound to recommend that we forward something to the board that accomplishes that. And I don't, because I never saw the written agenda today, I don't know if it fits into the category you had or if it was specific to Taylor. But I don't want to lose the thread, because anytime we would take it up, I think it would be appreciated by Jan, just to know that the Personnel Committee recognizes what she did.
Thank you, Erica. Is Jan covered by the police union contract, or is she outside of that and she's an admin employee of the village?
Correct. Outside of the
Okay.
contract.
Okay, so that is totally doable. Do you all want to take that up now as part of 7, or do you want to make it be part of next meeting? Because, yes, Koki.
Jen is leaving in October.
Yes.
Then I would suggest it would be discussed at the next meeting.
Okay.
Discussed.
Okay, very good. Everybody okay with that? Next meeting? I've got it written down here. Okay, any other future agenda items? Koki?
This isn't an agenda item, but I just want to make it clear to the staff how much the Personnel Committee appreciates their excellent work.
Yes, indeed.
Actually, I think we should go on record to say that. I don't think we should just do it internally.
Okay, so a motion. Well, how do we do that? Is it a resolution of the Personnel Committee? How do we do that? Is it just that I bring it to the next board meeting? Can I give somebody the task of drafting that statement in the meantime? Anybody want to volunteer to draft that offline and get it to me?
Who are we resolving about?
We want to make a more formal statement to the board that the Personnel Committee recognizes the over-the-top contributions of our staff and under the difficult conditions in which they're now working. So that's a draft, I guess. But does it
I'll
need
take
to
a
say?
stab at it.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate that.
If I will do it on one condition, that those of you who are like Koki and Mary and Greg, who have bright ideas about this, contribute some of my resolves, or it's going to be a very short resolution. Now therefore, well, I could do that part, but the whereas, give me a few whereases, please.
Awesome.
At the moment, you might not like my whereases, so but I'll give you some positive ones.
So do we need to have a motion to bring that to the board, or do we just need to communicate it as something coming from personnel, proposing a proposal from personnel that they pass such a resolution?
I would say-
Are we resolving, are we adopting a resolution, or are we simply drafting a resolution we approve that gets recommended to the board?
I think it's number two. I don't think Personnel Committee can pass any resolutions. Now that I think about it, I think we just have to draft something for the board to either adopt or reject.
And
Then
now
I
I'm
think-
backtracking because I'm worried about whether it'll go through the board. And then that would be even worse.
Well, that that's a consideration.
So maybe it just has to be in our minutes that we acknowledge the hard work of the board or of the staff.
At the very least, why don't we, I like Mary's approach now. I think this may create more issues than it resolves. But why don't we at the very least just see if we want to think it up another time? But I think it's fair, Carol, to communicate to the board how aware and deeply appreciative the Personnel Committee is of what's been demanded of the staff and our earnest interest in trying to alleviate some of the pressures that have made things as difficult as they've been.
All right. Thank you. I think maybe I'll huddle with Brian to try to figure out what is the best way to get that on the agenda. Is that
Just,
satisfactory? Yeah.
Just a suggestion to consider while you're trying to figure this out. It could be I don't know, I haven't seen a board agenda of late, but it could be under correspondence. Just a letter from a note or a memo from this committee. That's one way to get it before the board in a non-controversial way. But that's just a suggestion. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. But there are other ways to get things in front of the board without any action required by the board. But it's an informational item, and it could come across as correspondence. And again, I'll leave that to you and Brian, but I just wanted to make that suggestion too.
So thank you, Greg. That maybe a correspondence could just take the form of the letter in the packet, just like if it was from a resident,
No, it's a safe way to do it. I've seen it done before, so it's safe in the sense that it shouldn't. And I don't know if this is I may be naive, but I'm thinking it would be non-controversial as presented as a piece of correspondence in the packet.
Yep.
I think if it was duly adopted at a meeting, but otherwise getting together and putting together a letter seems to me create some open meetings issues that we don't need.
But thank you, Koki, for bringing it up because Taylor and Brian, we do appreciate your work. Thank you.
Might I also mention, someone has told me that the next issue of Isthmus is going to contain a story about the reason that 6 people have left employment with the village. And I only mention that because it does involve personnel. And if I'm just tagging it that I'm going to be looking with interest at the next Isthmus.
So that may be a future agenda item. I feel like we didn't totally tie off how we're communicating to the board then. Are we gonna count on one of us to interpret the sentiments expressed here and send a letter for the packet? And in that way, avoid open meeting violations? Do we need to have a motion that can be cited by the person writing the letter? We can move, I mean,
I don't-
stop me. Yeah,
I think it's enough, Carol, that you simply communicate the sentiments of the committee as part of your report. I don't know that it needs to.
okay. We're getting down a rabbit hole. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, uh, so no resolution with whereases,
No,
just a letter and in the packet and that I would also speak on that when the time came.
you could bypass the letter even if you just wanted to
Yeah.
state on behalf of the committee our
Okay.
deep appreciation of the staff in these very chaotic or whatever word you want to use, turbulent. But I think that would be enough. I think that that gets into the record too, and it's not
Okay.
controversial. Just you're just expressing on behalf of the committee, not in writing. Just that we have a deep appreciation for what's happened here, and we're going to do our best to retain our staff. You know, that's what we've been talking about.
Very good. All right. Okay, so I made that more complicated than it needed to be, I think. Uh, all right. Is any other future agenda items? Okay. All right. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, June 2 at 8 a.m. Same, I assume it'll be both at the Village Hall and on Zoom. Uh, so, motion to adjourn. Yeah, Erica.
I will not be present for that meeting, but just for the record.
Okay, thank you. Gotcha. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
So Mary moves to adjourn. Koki seconds.
Okay.
Koki seconds. All right. Is that one we have to vote on? I forget. Or is that just like done? So yes, you vote. Okay. All in favor of adjourning.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for staying for 3 hours on a short notice. Much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Carol.
Bye bye. Thanks, Greg.